This is a big L.
No,
It's
but-
not a money
but
win.
here-
I'm so nervous. Here's what I'm nervous
If
about.
there's a part 3,
That account now has $255,000 in it.
man, Bitcoin just is
I'm
chasing
gonna say
this guy
this
around. What a special day. The content team has asked you guys to give us your financial confessions. Can't wait to see how this goes, Bo.
Brent, I am so excited because these are our people. These are our financial mutants explaining some of their money decisions. I'm curious to see how this goes. Let's dive right in.
So I hate buying clothes. I don't place any value in clothing other than just a utility. And so I wear them beyond what maybe a reasonable person would do. So I had a pair of underwear that had fully started coming apart at the seams, but I kept wearing them because why replace them if they're still functional, right?
They're not
there's
functional.
an
They're coming
opportunity
apart at the
cost there.
seams.
Well, it got to the point in the not too distant past, actually, 2025 this year, that the entire supportive nature of these underwear, the briefs,
This is
was
too much information.
non-existent. So one day, I happened to be in the kitchen in said underwear, checking under the dishwasher
Do I need
because
to
I
hear
thought I saw maybe a leak or something. So I was on my hands and knees. Without getting into the explicit details, let's just say that I was hanging out, doing some home maintenance that day. And my wife walked in and was not too impressed at the sight that she
my
saw.
God. See,
Told me that I
you
had to
just
throw
gave-
them away immediately. So I gave in and threw them away. Needless to say, those underwear had been fully depreciated and had served in my army of dollars to the full. And I'm still trying to figure out if this is a money win or maybe frugal to a fault.
This is a big L.
No,
It's
but-
not a
but
money win.
here's
This
the
is a
thing.
big L.
I was going to pick at the end and be like, obviously he's single. Because nobody, because I'm Mr. Thrifty Underpants. I am exactly like you as I see no functionality in the clothes except for one key thing. My wife. I like to look anything I can do so that my wife finds me more attractive. I do
You
it.
do it, yeah, that's it.
I've got some shirts and pants that are either too tight or I think are too scratchy. But you know what? If she gives me a compliment in it, I'll wear it more often. So to hear you say, first of all, I see no function in my clothing. I'd love to know what your spouse says about that. Because, I think we all want to kind of present ourselves to our spouses in our best foot forward way. And the other thing is underwear that's starting to fall apart. What are we doing?
yeah.
If you look at total cost for return, this is, you even divide it by how many years. Obviously you got probably at least 10 years out of this underwear.
That's what it sounds like.
So that's not where you're going to fund your Roth IRA. Is go buy some new drawers.
You know the moral that I heard of this story? Who does their home improvements in their underwears, right? Like that for step number one.
No, wait a minute. I've seen enough of you on social media. Bo, once you leave the house, leave the office here, you're Matthew McConaughey.
Oh,
you
yeah,
walk
no,
around
no.
shirtless
Yeah,
everywhere.
absolutely.
On social media,
Absolutely.
I'm like, Bo Hansen doesn't know what a shirt looks like.
No, take it.
So you are halfway to where this
taking
guy
your
is.
shirt off, popping the top makes all the sense in the world when you're doing home repairs. But not having on pants, that's just a bridge too far. I say do your chores with pants on.
So back in 2016, I contributed $2,400 to my Roth IRA for the year. And
What
the
did you put
very
in?
next month, the beginning of 2017, the head gaskets went in my hoopty car that I was driving at the time. And wouldn't you know, the repair bill was exactly $2,400. I didn't feel confident taking the money from my maintenance sinking fund or my emergency fund because I didn't think I had enough in there. And I withdrew my contribution for the year.
That's what the maintenance fund is there for. The reason why you keep a maintenance fund is when you have maintenance issues come up, you go and draw from it. So I'd be curious, why he made the decision. Instead of using the fund for the very thing that it's there for, he decided to go into the Roth and pull out those contributions.
The challenge I'd have for Hank now is because, look, a $2,400 mistake you can recover from,
Sure.
and you had an immediate emergency there. So I'm going to give a lot of grace, but I think if you went and actually put that $2,400 from late 2016 into an S&P 500 fund and go calculate what it's worth now, you'll realize that from an opportunity cost or incremental decision standpoint, I wouldn't pull that lever again.
But it is one of the reasons why we love Roth IRAs. That lever does exist, even though we never, ever want you to pull on it. It is an option. You can get to your basis penalty-free, tax-free before age 59 and a half if you have to, But our hope is that you never actually have to do that.
Especially if you have an emergency fund.
That's right.
I'm 43 years old. I've been working for about 23 years now. I've been really only saving to my 401k. That's been my only
Like most
investment
Americans.
that I've been contributing to for the last 23 years. I've also been contributing 5% of my paycheck to a regular savings account. Not a high yield, a regular savings account, earning just 0.01% interest. It was just a set it and forget it. I didn't think about what's the best place for my money. So that account now has $255,000 in it. And it's killing me knowing what that could have been had I actually invested it in, say, a Roth IRA or something like that back when I was in my 20s.
This is the story of my childhood.
That's
It's something.
painful.
It wasn't $250,000, but my parents were great at saving money, meaning being disciplined, living on less than they made, but never put their army of dollar bills to work. And that stuff breaks my heart.
Even worse than that, it wasn't even a high yield account. I mean, even if you're going to build up cash, at least if you're making, recently 4 as high as 5% on that, that's something. But this is hundreds of thousands of dollars that sat there earning less than 1%. That's devastating. But as you sit here today, what I want you to recognize is that you still have an opportunity moving forward. You can't go back and make up for lost time, but what you can do is you can adjust your behavior and your strategy today so that your future looks brighter. But oof, that's a tough one.
And you're a vehicle for change, Rick, because you shared this experience.
Right.
Other people go see this, they're going to resemble it, and they're not going to make the same mistake.
So my financial confession revolves around Bitcoin. I will never forget in 2008, 2009, my dad telling me in the kitchen table about Bitcoin.
He's probably a billionaire now, then.
And I was still in high school. He was saying how he had some extra money around and he had around $10,000 to invest. And he was kind of just looking for something to diversify in. And he heard about this newfound thing called Bitcoin. He got all excited and said, oh, they think it could go up to $500.
Back then.
I convinced him that it was a scam and that he shouldn't do it. I think he would probably be in the tens of millions had he bought back then.
Here's the problem, Bill. Hindsight is always 2020. Because, okay, yes, for Bitcoin, that's true. Had he done that back then, but we could name all the cryptos that have come along since then and all the meme coins and all the NFTs. And for every one Bitcoin story, there's probably 100 other stories of the thing that did not turn into that. So I don't think that your guidance was off. I don't think your guidance was crazy because that was a very speculative investment in 2008. It just happens to be a speculative investment that turned out okay. That turned out really good.
You could swap out Bitcoin for Amazon,
Sure.
Apple, whatever stock or investment back, because I think he said 2008. Everything was super cheap back then. But here's the reality. I'll go ahead and play this out so you can release yourself from this prison of mental traps you're putting yourself in. Even if your father would have bought it $10,000 worth when it was worth $20,000, more than likely he'd have sold it.
Probably going to get out, right?
He was
Once you
going to get
double your
out
money.
and then go put his money somewhere else. So, I mean, this was not a $10,000 mistake that could have become $20 million, like you said. Now, yes, if you'd have left it, but there's also all kind of data out there that if you put $1,000 into Amazon at this certain date, it'd be worth millions of dollars now. That opportunity cost thing is going to be something you'll always deal with. And that's one more reason why I don't like buying specific individual holdings is because now all of a sudden your daily emotional happiness is driven by the volatility, the ups and downs of that. It's much better if you're just buying index funds and generalized things that let you kind of just enjoy your money versus letting your money kind of be the dominion over your daily happiness.
I worked for a company with branches all over the country, and I got transferred from one branch to the other. The branch that got transferred to was the DC branch, and when that happened, they also transferred my state income tax withholding. However, even though it was called the DC branch, the actual physical location of the office was in Virginia, and I lived in Virginia. So even though it said DC branch, I lived and worked in Virginia. But they switched my tax withholding to DC, and for whatever reason, I could not get them to change that tax withholding. And when it came time to actually file my taxes at the end of the year, my taxes had been taken out for DC the entire year, and then Virginia came and said, hey, you didn't pay us any taxes this entire year, so here's your tax bill, and also here's a penalty for not paying any of your taxes throughout this year. And I got so flustered that I just paid the Virginia taxes well, while also having previously paid my
Did you file
DC
amended?
state tax bill, which I couldn't figure out how to get refunded. I actually worked at that location for 3 years. The same thing happened for 3 years. And so for a 3-year period, I paid state taxes to 2 different states in their entirety, including for a state that I did not live or work in.
I feel like this is a common theme that we see happen. We've seen this happen with clients before. They get a letter from the IRS or something happens, it's scary, and the immediate default response is, I'm just going to write a check to make it go away. I'm so nervous. I'm going to make this go away. There's probably, if you add up those 3 years of taxes that she was paying to 2 separate municipalities, I bet it was substantial material, and she was entitled to get that money back. She could have gotten that money back had she gone through the process.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know DC's tax rate off the top of my head, but it's probably at least 6-7%. Sure. So you take that and you did it by multiple years, and then you think about the penalties back in Virginia. This is something, guys. Look, I get it. A lot of do-it-yourselfers, you don't like to pay fees. You just think you're going to do it all yourself. But this is a perfect example that if you go see the right tax preparer, CPA, they can help you unwind this situation, because you realize you have 3 years to go back and perfect and correct the record, where you can file amended returns, you can write letters of explanation of what actually happened here. And I'll tell you, just from my experience of writing hundreds of tax letters for clients, is that I think a well-written letter with the right correspondence and attachments, I could have gotten you out of the penalty for Virginia, if you especially showing the withholding for DC and the mix up there from your employer, but then also you probably could have gotten all of that DC and gotten your name taken off of the DC rosters so that they're not looking for you to be paying in future years. Because that's something that I always tell people. I've had states where they've come after individuals when you're like, well, wait a minute, you got to make sure they understand. Well, yeah, because you want to make sure they understand you're not really a taxpayer in that state, so they can not hold you accountable for income that you're earning that's just not going to be taxable in their
it's a great example.
Jurisdiction.
A lot of us want to be penny wise, but we end up being pound foolish. And this is a great example of that. You likely, in this situation, you should have hired a tax preparer, hired an accountant, and said, hey, I've got this problem. I don't know how to fix it. I'm going to pay you a fee to help me fix this. And there's a good chance that had you done that, you'd actually ended up in a better spot.
I know you said 3 years, so we're probably going to lose at least one of them. But if any of those 3 years are still within the 3-year window, go get this fixed. Yeah. I mean, you can still go file an amended return within that 3-year window.
Hi, money guys. I pulled a bow and took $7,000 out of my emergency fund to fund my Roth from 2024.
You know what? I don't.
Yeah, that's not the craziest thing.
Let's not say I pulled a bow there, but that is a great thing that you can do, because one of the beautiful things, we said this earlier about a Roth IRA, is that if you put the money in, you can actually access the basis penalty-free and tax-free if you absolutely have to. Now, don't mishear me. I'm not saying go take all of your emergency fund and dump it in the Roth IRA, but let's say that you have a few months, maybe you got 5-6 months in the emergency fund, and you can pull that $7,000 and fund that Roth, and it brings you down just a touch, and you have time to replenish that. I don't think that's the craziest thing in the world, because you can't go back in time and fund that Roth. You can only fund this year's Roth this year plus up until the tax filing deadline. I don't want you to miss out on that opportunity.
As much as I love the coin term, I pulled a bow, I think that, look, you have to ask yourself, is this decision a seasonal decision, meaning in this moment to maximize this unique opportunity, this is what I need to do? Or are you now making a behavioral change that you're going to skimp on emergency reserves just so you can have this Roth IRA and you keep making that same mistake every year? Then that's a problem. But if this is a season and you're like, I'm just getting jammed up on the timing of this. I've got some future income coming in and I'm going to do this because it allows me to get the money in the Roth and I can quickly be able to replenish that emergency fund. I'm never going to punish you or give you trouble for a seasonal decision. I just want to caution you from turning this into a long-standing behavior. That's the mistake I made when I fell into the access to cash trap, is that instead of keeping emergency reserves, I was using my home equity line as the emergency reserves instead of just letting it be an additional tool in the safety belt of all the financial tools I had. So that's the only thing I would say, is just make sure that this was a seasonal decision, not some new behavior or habit that you're doing that's going to keep you from having emergency reserves.
And then fast forward about 4 more years, my roommate in the Navy told me that he was mining Bitcoin in our barracks room, and he had a couple hundred Bitcoin, and I still thought it was a scam. and he tried to get me to start mining it with him with our computers. And I told him I didn't want to get into it because it could be illegal and jeopardize my Navy career. He is probably a multimillionaire right now too.
Man, Bitcoin just is chasing this guy around. It's like he comes around the corner and Bitcoin's there, like, so it's just, so poor Bitcoin Bill here is just being haunted by this. So I have to amend my previous answer because I was like, look, your dad would have sold it and it doubled, but that still wouldn't have gotten you out of your Navy mate who all of a sudden is mining it down in the corner, letting the U.S. government pay the utility bills. By the way, you were correct. That probably was illegal.
And I love that. Again, I don't even fault you on that advice. I think so often people get so excited about this opportunity, this thing that presents itself. If that thing or that opportunity that has come along might cause you to lose your job, the very thing that provides your livelihood, I would think 2, 3, 4 times about that before I jump headlong into it. Because if this is something that would have not been permissible in the position that you're in, by all means, it's not something that would likely make sense for you to do. I'm so nervous. Here's what I'm nervous about.
If there's a part 3,
I'm nervous that part 3 is he's gonna have gotten in at the very height. Like, I finally pulled the trigger and ended up losing my underpants.
Okay.
Invested in Worthy Pure Capital to about $25K. Currently being held for over 2 years now after a pause was put in place in July of 23. I don't know if I'll ever get that money back, but we'll see. Right now, when I reach out to the company, they state that they're working on a resolution plan, but they're waiting on the SEC to approve it, which seems unlikely.
Sounds like this guy got involved with an investment, and that investment ended up going kind of belly up. Maybe it wasn't something on the up and up, and so his money's trapped in there. Again, this is not something uncommon, not necessarily this investment, but we see this all the time with clients who somebody comes along and they got to get invested in a private equity deal or a private placement. They got to do it. And they get excited and they're an accredited investor and they write the check for $25,000, write the check for $50,000. And then they recognize, holy cow, I invested in something I didn't understand with some people that I did not know, with a structure that I was not familiar with. And all of a sudden now, my money's trapped and I don't know if I'm going to get any of it back. I don't know when I'm going to get it back. If you do not understand something, if you don't know what you're putting your money into, you should immediately pause and think to yourself, man, should I really be putting my hard-earned dollars in this thing, or might I be better served putting them somewhere else?
Yeah, I mean, it's back to a point I made earlier. I like index funds. I like things that take the emotion out of investing because behaviorally, this is what us humans tears us up, is the regrets and getting into investments, being sold something that was not exactly what we needed at that moment in time. I just would try to avoid those behaviors as much as possible.
Fast forward a few more years later, 2016, 2017, I was stationed with the Marine Corps, and I had Marines who were living in the barracks, and they were mining Bitcoin and making thousands of dollars just by mining it. And I still thought it was a scam. So fast forward 2016, 2017, I finally decided to get into it and bought into Bitcoin right before it really took off. And then it took off and it crashed and I sold and I had 4 or 5 Bitcoin. And had I just kept always be buying, as Brian says, I would have close to $1 million. I got in and out of Bitcoin a few times over the years and sold when it would crash because I would get scared and then foolishly buy in after it went back up. And now had I just always been buying small amounts, a couple $100 here and there, I would probably have over $1 million by now. So that is my series of stories about Bitcoin and how it could have been a great investment how I also kind of got burned by it.
You know, when I hear Bill talk, I don't think your problem is that you weren't always be buying. Based on what I'm hearing, based on the emotions that you are suggesting you have when it comes to investing, I don't know that investing in something like Bitcoin matches your specific risk tolerance. Because you just said when it crashed, I got scared and I sold. And then when it came back and I felt like I was missing out, I bought back in. That's the exact opposite. You're not buying low and selling high. You're buying high and selling low. That suggests to me that you might not be the type of investor that makes sense to hold such a risky, such a volatile asset as a cryptocurrency. I don't think the issue was that you weren't dollar cost averaging, always buying. I think the issue is that you were investing in something that did not make sense for your unique investor profile.
Let it go. I mean, I just think that this is not healthy for you. Walk away from it. This is the spice of life. It could have been the same thing. You could have bought a piece of real estate in your hometown on this corner lot, and it would be worth 10 times to 100 times what it was. You could have bought Apple or Amazon. You could what if everything in your life. The better decision is maybe go look at the financial order of operations, start building your plan for success. So yeah, you can look back and go, yeah, I could have, would have done this, but I'm still all right. That's the biggest thing. Are you all right in your own financial journey and in your own shoes and how you're making a decision? Because everything you shared, your risk profile is never should have held Bitcoin in the first place. You're too risk adverse, which I would say is a healthy thing. You just got to make sure that the rest of your actions match the journey and the walk. So you're building your own narrative that doesn't have this horror story of Bitcoin jumping out, doing jump scares every few minutes or weeks of your life.
Love it.
Nice try, Feds.
Is that it? That was it?
Well, here's what I love about all these stories, all these things that we just said, is that in our journeys, we might have financial missteps. We might have financial miscues, but that's okay. How your journey begins does not define how your journey has to end, even when it comes to financial mutants. For those of you who reached out, who shared this, thank you so much. We love that we get to share it with the world around us, that we can all learn from your mistakes.
Sovereign citizen. Pay your taxes. Thank you for sharing all the comments, the confessions, the haunts. We loved it. We love our audience, and we love creating this type of content.
Hey guys, we absolutely love this. If you'd like for us to hear your money miscue, you can go to moneyguy.com/confessions and share your story with us.
I'm your host, Brian Preston, Mr. Bo Hansen. Money Guy team out.